Great. Well, I'm here with Nikki Kimball, and she's been with us this week at the Transvulcania Ultramarathon. Welcome, Nikki, to an Ultra168 update. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
Well, just for our viewers, maybe just give us a little potted history of your running career and how you got into the sport.
I got into the sport a long time ago, maybe 13 years or so. I got into it basically running trail races, running sub-ultra trail races, and tended to not pay attention to trail markings, and ended up getting lost a lot and running way over marathon distances when I shouldn't have. And so that just sort of progressed into me actually doing races that were supposed to be longer and paying attention to trail markers, and like doing a 50-mile race that counts as 50 miles. So it just sort of started that way, kind of randomly. I mean, I was not a good runner in college. I was a cross-country ski racer, and then I found trail racing, and endurance racing was way more to my talent, and so it happened from there.
So could you maybe just give us a couple of your career highlights in terms of victories and favourite races?
So, the typical, I guess, what people think of as my career highlights are winning Western States 3 times. One of those times is still the second fastest time run on the real course. And I tend to do well in adverse conditions. So I've done that. I've been on the U.S. mountain running team 3 times, 100K team 6 times, snowshoe team 5 times. So it's a sort of a really broad spectrum of sports and racing. It's not just ultramarathon, but ultras in skiing and running.
It's an impressive record. If you had to choose one particular performance or one particular race, what would it be?
Gosh, I don't know. Probably Western States 2006, I think, was the year that I was 3rd overall. That's probably my top performance.
And what specifically about that?
Well, I think I think it was a really hot day, and I think that was an equalizer between the men's and women's fields, and it had been a goal of mine at that point to win the race outright, and I think it's certainly was a goal of Ann Trayson's, and she's been very close time-wise, I've been very close place-wise, and just everything has to come together correctly at that time, and I think that a woman can win it outright, but I think a lot of factors have to come into play. She has to be having the race of her life, and probably the conditions should be pretty adverse. I think adversity levels the playing field with respect to just overall physical talent and prowess, and mental capacity mental talent and tenacity comes into play a little bit more.
Well, that's a fascinating insight, that if the playing field's leveled a little bit in terms of allowing that physical presence that the males have not to be so evident, then we will hopefully see the day that a woman is victorious. And we saw a great performance by a good friend of yours, Anna Frost, this weekend, and she took a number of fairly significant male scalps. How did you find the course yourself, and the performance of the women in general?
I think the course was just great. I mean, the course was beautiful. It was not technical enough, I think, to help level it out. I mean, it was a very physical course. I mean, Anna's running she is so strong right now. I mean, I don't know if it seems that she's at a peak right now. I don't know if she can keep continuing getting better, but she may very well. And I remember being on that peak, and it's a pretty amazing feeling. And the great thing about Anna right now is that she's out climbing a lot of the men, and that's an incredible thing. And maybe had the course conditions been a little bit more adverse, she could have placed top 10. I mean, she was so close, and I think sprinkle a little adversity in there, and we'd have a woman in the top 10.
Great. Well, I spoke to you seconds after you crossed the line and asked you how you felt, and you mentioned that for the first time in maybe a couple of years, your knees felt good and you were running well. A little update, how are you feeling now a couple of days later? Still? I
feel great, yeah. It's just one knee that I've had a problem with for 4.5 years, and I hadn't run a downhill without knee pain since the accident in 2007. So so that was pretty cool. I mean, I think hopefully that will allow me to train in a way that I can regain my former speeds.
Yeah. And anything in particular that might have brought that about? Have you been changing your training or been smarter with what you do?
Yeah, what's happened really is I started ski mountaineering racing last year, and so 2011 I had many runs where I would run on uphills and flats without pain, and I wasn't limping. I stopped limping last year, so I think ski mountaineering, a lot of eccentric loading of the quads. I've always had big, heavy legs anyway, but they're just even more toned and bigger, stronger, and that's what I need. My knees aren't healthy enough at this point to run without a lot of muscle. It's kind of it hurts me in shorter distances because I'm carrying a lot of weight, but I can't run without really big, strong legs. I just get hurt.
Yeah, and obviously you've seen what could only be described as maybe almost a circus this week. It's been a phenomenal coming together of the greatest athletes currently in the game and past and present. We've seen some of the legends of the game stepping up today to talk about the history of skyrunning, 20 years old. How have you seen ultra running change over the last decade or so that you've been in the sport?
It's changed. It's changed primarily in the depth of the field, both on the men's and women's side. We're just seeing incredible depth. I think Western States last year and this year, as far as the women's trail racing goes, have been just phenomenal depth. We've seen. I don't even know how many women were under 24 hours at Western States, but it was just a huge number. Granted, the course was very fast and it wasn't the real course, but I think we're not necessarily seeing individual people way faster than they were in the past. Anna's incredible, but we had Ann Trayson for decades, and so many of us have had those world-class performances. But now it's not just Ann Trayson. It's not just how I was running in the mid-2000s. It's that there are a whole bunch of people who can run those speeds. And I would know more. The men's. I don't know as much about the men's fields because I haven't studied them as much because I sort of study my own competition. But I think we're seeing it in both men and women's field with just increased depth.
We've obviously seen the battle of the brands. You've been a North Face athlete for a while now. Obviously serves you well. How do you see the brands and the athletes working together? What would be an ideal combination?
I guess I could answer that many ways. I think one of the things that was really great this weekend is Salomon had a huge presence here, and they had a huge number of athletes and a huge number of supporters, while the American athletes came in from Pearl Izumi, Mountain Hardwear, Montrail, North Face, and Salomon supported all of us. And I think you see that in ultra running, and I hope we continue to see that. Salomon didn't have to give us extra support out there, and they did. And I've seen North Face do that for other teams, and I want to have great competition between the teams, but I also want it to be I want the teams to really respect each other, and I think we're definitely seeing that.
Great. And final question, what's next for you? What's the summer look like?
So Western States again, probably, and then the skyrunning series, Carl Meltzer's race, Speed Goat, and then the biggest thing of my year is I'm trying to break the fastest known time on a trail in Vermont called the Long Trail. It's a 276-mile trail of just rocks and roots and 80,000 feet of gain, and yeah.
And what's the time you're looking for?
It has to be under 4 days, 12 hours to be the record. That's Jonathan Basham has it now, and hopefully that will go down in August.
Great. Well, look, thank you for sharing some time with Ultra168, and good luck, and hope that the performances continue. It's been great getting to know you this week. Thank you.
Thanks.